If you aren't getting a full range of motion with your exercises, you are leaving so much on the table in terms of your progress. And you might think like, what's the big deal? I get in this machine, I do the thing, or I put the weight on the bar and I'm lifting it from point A to point B. That's not where it ends. All right, you guys, welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. This episode is going to be truth bombs for women over 40. Now, today is going to be one that really is a common issue that women come to us for, and it's struggling with seeing the results of all their efforts. So if you've been busting your butt in the gym, you feel like you've been training long enough, you should be able to see more muscle tone. You want to look like you lift. You don't want to just look skinny, toned, or have no shape. And also another one that we hear is my glutes and my legs just will not change no matter how much I work out. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about 3 really important things you need to consider if you're finding that these are issues that you're struggling with, okay? Now, training women for over 20 years, thousands of women online, also in person, and competitors, I will tell you that it's going to come down to these foundational things needing to be in order and in place. Now, before I get into why you're here, I want you to realize that when we say we don't look like we lift, typically we're searching for that shape, right? You want to see the peak of your biceps. You want to see a little sweep of your quads. You want to see your glutes pop, right? And you can't make that happen without 2 things. 1, that is going to actually appear. After 2, you lose the body fat to reveal the muscle that you've created. So when we talk about lifting weights, I think a lot of times women over 40 are still very intimidated and scared, and they think they're going to get bulky and huge, and they worry about these things as a possibility. And we don't worry, we do not have enough hormone to make that happen naturally. So that's not going to happen. And so the conversation really needs to steer a different direction when it comes to why am I not seeing the shape that I want from the efforts I'm putting in. What I'll tell you is it's not because you're not doing enough sometimes, it's mainly due to the fact that you're not doing the right things. So these 3 mistakes are the ones that keep you from looking like you actually lift. The first one is not paying attention to your hormones. For those of you over 40, your hormones play a big role in your results. I mean, it plays a role for everybody, but over 40, we're actually working against Mother Nature, right? Our naturally declining hormones. And so when you put yourself in these positions to want to build muscle, but you're not really sure what's going on under the hood, like I like to say when it comes to your blood work, you can feel like you're spinning your wheels. Now, the natural decline in hormones that you'll see is typically our sex hormones, right? So your testosterone, your progesterone, your estrogen, and things of that nature. And as we get older, we enter perimenopause or menopause and beyond. That becomes a complicated puzzle that we aren't equipped to solve on our own. And knowing what's going on with those hormones are incredibly important, especially if you're struggling with things like not seeing results from your workouts. The other way that your hormones are affected are through lack of sleep and also prolonged periods of stress. So sleep is going to affect your cortisol, it's going to affect your insulin, it's going to affect so many ways that your body breaks down and processes your foods and also builds muscle and burns fat. And if you are burning the candle and you're not paying attention to your sleep, you don't have good sleep hygiene, and you're doing all the things that look great on paper to then create this amazing physique, we have to start with that. And it seems so basic and so simple, but it actually is incredibly important if you want to see results with your fat loss and also your muscle gain efforts. I'm sure we've all heard of the hormone cortisol, and a lot of times cortisol gets a bad rap when it doesn't need to get a bad rap. It just needs to be looked at from a way that where are we creating an environment that it's too high, right? Are we under these periods of stress? Are we not taking breaks in our training to sometimes maybe deload? Are we, sleep plays a part of that obviously as well, but are we really trying to live and expend at a level that is just not sustainable for the long term? Because your body keeps score and it will catch up to you indeed. So to wrap it up with the hormones, if you are working out, you're doing all the things, and you feel like, I still look the same, I don't feel like anything's changing, one of the key areas I'm going to ask you, if you were to come to me and I was going to work with you as your coach, is have you had your hormones checked? Have you looked to see what all these levels are? And it needs to go beyond just like a basic blood panel, just to kind of check, like at your regular 1 year sort of physical checkup, right? Or you go to the GYN and they give you a panel to go get some labs done. Really taking the time to work with somebody who understands hormones on a deeper level is super important, because oftentimes we get shuffled through the medical system, unfortunately, and we don't get the deeper dive that we need to see beyond the surface layer lab tests that a lot of times they'll send us for because they're covered by insurance. So this does require a level of investing in your health and being willing to be proactive to take the steps needed when you find out if there is something going on with your hormones. The last thing I'll say about hormones is ask yourself a few questions if you're not sure. If you're not sure if this might be the culprit, some things to think about. What are the check engine lights that are coming on in your body? And that can be a multitude of things, but I'll just shout out a few for you, which could be you wake up drenched in sweat, so you're having night sweats. You have really erratic moods and very irregular and unpredictable menstrual cycles. Your libido is all over the place. You're noticing your hair is changing texture. Maybe you're losing some hair. Your nails are brittling a little bit, right? Maybe you're having some weird skin things that are coming up that are just not explainable. You know, it's not like you switched a new lotion or you added a new thing and you have some interesting things that are popping up. So these are places to start. Some other areas are if you notice weird kind of like pockets of body fat. Sometimes when we enter perimenopause and menopause, if your hormones are imbalanced, you'll start to notice kind of some weird things happening, right? This is a shape shift that a lot of women are embarrassed about and they're afraid to talk about when they hit their 40s because they think they're going through it alone when you're not going through it alone, right? I'm almost 50. I deal with my own issues with perimenopause, and I've seen it through women all the way up into their 70s and how hormones really truly affect not only their physical body, but their actual mental health and how they operate in the world, right? It's very tied to your mood and drive and just the ability to have motivation and things of that nature. So listen to your body's whispers of those certain things that might be popping up. And taking that next step would be to get in touch with somebody who offers things like a full hormone panel, maybe some food sensitivity tests, like really just trying to see what could be an underlying cause of your inability to see your results. Okay, the second thing, and probably my favorite thing to rant on, so pull up a seat if you haven't already. Turn up your headphones if you're listening to me while you're walking or driving, because I want to talk to you about training. And if you know anything about my history, I'm an IFBB bodybuilding professional. I've been bodybuilding most of my adult life and working with women in health and fitness and really pushing my body to these kind of extremes and having that as a sort of a blueprint to understand how the body works when it comes to fat loss and also building muscle, because I've seen it on myself and I've seen it working with my clients. Now, when it comes to training, the most frequent thing that I notice working with clients is that just kind of doing whatever, right? They're walking in, they're like, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do legs today, and then I'm going to throw in a little bit of biceps. And it just ends up to be this like cauldron of nonsense, okay? And I've been guilty. And sometimes I get shiny object syndrome when I get in the gym and I don't want to do my plan and I'll kind of do something like that. But that's not the majority, right? The majority of the time, if I'm really working on physique change or I have a client who really wants to work on physique change, I want to look at how they're training. I want to see what style of training they're doing, what kind of exercises they're doing, what is their form like. And most importantly, once we have all those down, we move to what is their intensity like. Strength training is so key when we talk about living a lifestyle in which you are leaner most of the time, because muscle tissue is such an important piece of our body structure, but also for longevity, right? I call it definitely the longevity piece of things in terms of helping us stay full, and it's like the fountain of youth. And if you are still not sold on that, I want you to think about your grandparents, right? Or elderly people that might be in your life. And if they haven't been taking care of themselves, if they haven't been prioritizing their health, what is it like when you watch them try to get up off of a couch, right? Or see them get down on the floor and like get back up off the floor. And all of these little things, it's making sure that not only we're doing these things for our vanity, which is totally okay, but understanding that there are pieces of this that also need to be looked at so you can make sure that you're not only building muscle effectively, that you're also training in a manner that is going to help you have a better quality of life. Okay. So as you age, you're not having to require a lot of assistance. You could be more independent. And I don't know about you, but for me, I really value my independence. I live alone. My kids are all spread out across all over the place, and I'm an empty nester. And I want to be able to move through my day-to-day life, not only doing the things that I enjoy, but also my day-to-day household activities without a struggle. Because the longer I can do that, then the longer I'll live, my quality of life will be better, and I won't have to burden my precious children with taking care of me. Now, don't we all want to do that, right? So let's circle back, because of course, in true Diane fashion, I got a little bit squirrely there for you. But when it comes to your strength training, how much are you doing? How much strength training are you doing, right? And that's where we really want to find out the first foundational thing. What are you doing? How often are you doing it? And how hard are you pushing yourself? Because you might go in, you might have a well-intentioned plan that you bought off of some influencer on Instagram. Heck, you might even be following one of my plans that you've downloaded, or you might be working with me and you are going in the gym and training yourself, and you're just kind of going through the motions, right? You know what I mean? You get in the gym, you're like, oh, it says 10 to 12 reps. I'm just going to do 10 to 12 reps. You do 3 sets of that. And you're like, all right, I filled my duty for the day. But if you go through that entire workout and those muscles haven't been pushed to near fatigue, you're almost spinning your wheels. You won't get very far. You'll make some progress, but then you're going to kind of hit a sticking point. And the tipping point for getting out of that stuck zone, a lot of times, if there's a little bit of nutrition manipulation that needs to happen, but most of the time, it's having a reality check about the intensity of your training, right? When it burns, do you quit immediately? You're like, oh, it burns, right? We look at form also, too, as a key indicator as to why you may or may not be progressing. And so for me, working with clients online, it's getting videos, right? And if you're working with a coach online, they should be asking you, let me see your training videos, especially if you're saying you feel like things aren't changing or things are feeling stuck. Now, the reason why you'd want to do something like video yourself and watch it back or send it to a trainer to have them look at it is because if you aren't getting a full range of motion with your exercises, you are leaving so much on the table in terms of your progress. And you might think like, what's the big deal? I get in this machine, I do the thing, or I put the weight on the bar and I'm lifting it from point A to point B. That's not where it ends. We also want to look at, are you able to hinge properly? Are you able to squat properly? Are you able to control the load of movement? You're not just moving through your joints and moving through momentum. I mean, I remember when I was a brand new trainer and I was so afraid to critique my client's form because I was afraid they weren't going to like me. Okay. I was afraid that if I told people they were doing things wrong, they wouldn't want to keep paying me to come and train me, for me to train them. But when the reality was they were paying me to make sure they weren't training in a way that wasn't going to produce the results, right? They were paying me to essentially give them that. And I think a lot of new trainers make this mistake in the beginning because they want to be friends with their clients and they're afraid and they don't want to hurt their feelings or make them feel stupid. And there's a way in an art in which you deliver feedback. And my clients have always been incredibly grateful, and it works wonders, even remotely online. So that is another thing, is how is your form? And more importantly, how is your mobility? Because that's going to dictate sometimes how your form is going to look, right? How you're going to get into certain exercises and execute them effectively, get into the proper ranges of motion. It's going to come down to a lot of times mobility, stability, things of that nature. So let's just circle back because I got tangenty for a moment, as per the usual. And when it comes to your strength training, ask yourself a few of these questions. How much are you paying attention to your form? Now, even myself, being in the fitness industry, having done this for over 20 years, I still record myself in the gym. I don't do it all the time. I do it usually on the big movements where I'm like, these are the ones I'm probably going to cheat. Like if I'm going to cheat, it's probably going to be in these ones. Then that's where you're going to record yourself, because then you can get real with yourself. So I'll record them, and it doesn't have to be at any beautiful angle. You don't need a whole production shoot like this to come and film your workouts. You just need to prop it up against your shaker cup or your, whatever you got, and get a profile view of your exercises to make sure that you're getting enough depth. And if you aren't sure, then that's when having somebody who's in fitness or a personal trainer or a coach that can give you that helpful eye, so you can make sure you're not wasting your time when you're in the gym. And then the other question I will ask is, how often are you pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone, right? So if you go into the gym and you see an exercise that's programmed for 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps, right? This is pretty typical. You might see this in a booty building program or something like that. 3 or 4 sets, that 10 to 15 rep range. Are you going in and just doing those 3 sets without a warm-up set or a couple warm-up sets sometimes? Are you actually feeling that muscle working? Now, some muscles, I will say, you can't feel or you don't activate them typically as well as other muscles. Some muscles will burn, some muscles won't burn, right? So it's really a matter of, are you noticing that muscle is starting to get near a failure point, right? Where if you had to do 2 more, that would be it, right? That would be your top end. You'd be at your max effort, right? You don't want to be going to failure necessarily with every single set for every single exercise. But as you get up into that 10 rep, 11 rep, you should be feeling that this is incredibly difficult. You should leave those sets not having any more than 3 reps in the tank if there was a gun pointed to your head. Okay, sorry for the morbid example there, but you get the idea. Like, it needs to be challenging. And this doesn't mean you need to be PRing and doing 5 reps and any of that. I actually prefer a higher rep scheme with a moderate weight load done under a nice, slow tempos where you're controlling the weight. And that's really how I've built my body, because I've injured myself way too many times, right? I did powerlifting meet. And in my early bodybuilding days, I thought more was better, when actually better is actually better, not more. It's doing the exercise better, refining it, getting better with the form, the technique, the pace, the tempo, all those things. Way better than just adding more weight and it being an absolute shit show. That's why I've had to unfollow so many people, even some friends and things. I've had to mute them on Instagram because I can't, as a personal trainer, I physically cannot. It just hurts my head to see people moving weight that is ridiculous for no reason when they're trying to build a booty or build legs, and they're getting this much range of motion. It's absolute nonsensical. I just don't understand it. And I'm over here just with my cute 135 on the bar for hip thrusts, working on tempos, working on doing a hip thrust with a band, working on making sure I'm getting full hip extension, working on refining those things before slamming on a bunch of weight and learning how to actually fatigue the muscle quicker without having to do a ton of load on the bar or on a machine. And now I'm going to chat with you about cardio, okay? We love cardio. Don't we love cardio? We love cardio. We love cardio. Well, cardio is one of those necessary evils. Some of you guys are cardio queens. If you see cardio on your program, you're like, yes, hallelujah, I'm doing that first. The weight training is going to be an afterthought, right? I'm primarily talking to y'all, because my girls who really love to lift, they probably aren't as excited for cardio. Speaking for myself and other muscle mommies out there, okay? When it comes to your cardio, if you're finding that you're spending more time doing cardio than you are resistance training, that's where we need to spin it on its head. I want you to do the opposite, okay? Now, notice I didn't say stop doing cardio. They both need to exist, and most of them need to exist for everybody, right? For health and longevity. I want to make sure you're healthy. I want to make sure that your heart is as strong as it can possibly be. So we're adding it in for that. And it aids in fat loss, but I don't use it as one of the levers, the hard levers to pull when I'm trying to get women to actually get leaner, right? When they're wanting to be leaner and they want to see their muscle tone and muscle shape. We will play around with the cardio a little bit, but most of that comes from the third thing we're going to talk about, and I bet you can guess what it is. But when it comes to cardio, how much are you doing? And it's really comes down to each individual person and their preference for it, how they use it, how it sort of complements their strength training routine. I use it for these key things. I use it for help with recovery in between my sets because I prefer to use more supersets in the gym, and I like to move quickly between my workouts, and I really want my rest times between my exercises to be about 60 to 90 seconds. Now, when I'm noticing that I really feel like I need to rest more is a huge indicator that I need to work on my cardio, which is currently where I'm at right now, in all transparency, is I've just been relying on steps and things like that, and now I'm really adding it back in as a more intentional piece of the puzzle because I'm noticing that my training is suffering. And so these things are all uniquely interconnected, right? One is going to affect the other, as well as weight training is going to affect your cardio too, because it's going to help. There's so much crossover. So it's important that we have both in there in a responsible amount that makes sense for one, your goals, and two, for health and longevity over the long term. Because I don't know about you, I don't want to be living on a piece of cardio equipment every single day for over an hour and doing all this stuff. Like, those were the bodybuilding days. Those were the old school days. That's what we did back then. But now when we're trying to keep a curvy, shapely, nice booty, nice legs, athletic looking physique without looking like overly shredded and jacked, it's going to have to play a role, but it shouldn't be the main role. So with your cardio, just to tie that up, think about how much you're doing. How much time are you spending doing cardio? Is it taking away from your resistance training? And how can you create a balance between the both of them? So, for example, for me, I strength train 3 times a week. It's how I started bodybuilding. It's how I went through 4 bodybuilding shows, was never training more 3 days a week. I had a trainer. I went and saw my trainer 3 days a week. He trained me specifically for that goal, to train like a figure competitor. And I got on stage, and I did well. I placed every time I competed, strictly with just 3 times a week. Now, if you are more of an advanced exerciser, you enjoy being in the gym a little bit more, adding in a 4th day is not a problem, but we want to make sure that we're not sacrificing some of these other things to just be lifting all the time. And these other things being cardio, mobility, flexibility, recovery, and things of that nature. And the last thing that most people do that prevents them from looking like they actually lift in the gym is their nutrition. I know, I'm sure you're shocked, right? So we're going to spend some time talking about the importance of nutrition and its role in whether or not you are seeing the fruits of your labor, right? What you're doing in the gym. And it comes down to mostly your nutrition, right? Providing your strength training, and there is something to be shown once you drop your body fat, and you're doing some cardio to kind of help aid in that process, right? Get you a little bit more post-exercise calorie burn, higher heart rate, throughout the day, so you're naturally burning more calories. Like, all these things, your hormones are optimized, but at the end of the day, the biggest dial mover is going to be your nutrition. The biggest mistake is that people don't realize how much it actually plays a role in getting you leaner and dropping body fat. They're often looking for, what's the workout that's going to give me abs? What's the workout that's going to give me glutes? And it never really full circles back to the nutrition as the priority. And I always try to steer the conversation there, but it's never the fun one, right? Like, nobody wants to talk about that piece of it. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's like, give me the workout program and, maybe give me the perfect macro split, but we got to talk about also what's going on with your nourish. Now, as I said earlier, in order for you to see visible results, which oftentimes for women, it's like seeing their sculpted shoulders. Maybe you want to see a little definition in your midsection, or you want to have a flatter stomach. You want to see maybe some lines in your legs, some curves in your glutes, things like that. Nutrition is going to be the dial mover for that. If you aren't lean enough, you're not going to see those things. So you have to be lean enough, and that's going to come by way of your food. So when it comes to the key thing I'm going to talk to you about, it's going to be protein, right? If you're not eating enough protein, you're not going to be able to build muscle. That's how you're going to actually build the muscle. That's what's going to create the muscle that you are working so hard in the gym for. So your protein has got to be a priority. And there's so many opinions out there as to how much protein you should be eating and things. It's all across the board, right? I've seen it all from 0.6 grams to 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. And some people are per pound of lean mass. It's all over the place, okay? As a simple rule of thumb, we want to try to get in 1 gram per pound, especially for those of us that are over 40, over 50, and over 60. Those needs actually increase because your likelihood of losing muscle actually increases, and it happens faster as you are in those later years. And it's a lot of times due to the declining hormones and things of that nature, and just aging in general. So as we get older, we actually need more protein. So I know, right? You're already like, Diane, I'm trying to like chug down 150 grams a day. I'm like, now you're telling me when I turn 40, this is going to, at 50, it's going to get even higher. Yeah, it is. And so with that, it's protein. And I can go down a whole tangent about the types of protein and why you shouldn't just be eating chicken breast and how collagen protein isn't the answer, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. And a lot of women over 40 are so romanticized when they see that collagen is this like, oh, it's collagen protein and I can put it in my coffee and I can put it in my smoothie. But collagen protein isn't the type of protein that you need to build muscles. That's going to be for your hair, your skin, your nails, connective tissues, that sort of thing, right? So protein is a huge conversation we're having with clients, one-on-one clients, group coaching clients, because this is what we need to really think about when we're thinking about our nourishment and our nutrition when it comes to making sure that we can keep muscle for as long as we want, as long as we can while we're aging. And so that needs to be the priority. So every time you're eating, are you gravitating towards what's the protein on my plate right now? What's the first thing you're going to do? Protein. That's what I'm looking for in every fucking scenario, okay? If I go to a party, if I go to a dinner or somewhere where I'm invited or a new restaurant, I'm looking for where are the protein sources. And then I'm asking myself, because I know that other forms of protein are incredibly important to get other sources like omega acids and omega fatty acids and things, and I don't eat those things on a regular. So I'm looking at the menu and I'm saying, okay, well, I haven't had salmon in probably 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't had a really great rich source of a whole food omega. I take omegas regularly, but whole food is always the way you want to go. So I'm making decisions for my body based off of what my body needs, and I know that it needs, that I might be neglecting, right? So that's your first thing. The third thing that's not so fun that I just want to put out there is that oftentimes that leanness that you want, that definition and that toned look that you're really trying to achieve is going to require that you are in a calorie deficit, aka you're on a restrictive diet. You are restricting your calories. And that's okay if that's the season of life you're in and you're okay with restricting, you're okay with being a little bit hungry. That is going to happen. You are going to be hungry, right? Your body is trying to use its own fat for fuel, and that is going to come with hunger, right? There's no way around that. Now, some people just don't have naturally a big appetite, and that isn't an issue for them for too long. But depending on the level of leanness you're trying to achieve is going to dictate how restrictive the process is going to be. And I'm going to tell you, the leaner you want to be, the more restrictive you're going to be, and the harder it is going to be to try to sustain that, especially for long periods of time. Okay? It's not natural. It's not normal, and a lot of times we're going against our own evolutionary set points, and we're trying to push past that and forcing these extremes on our bodies, especially as women, because what are we here for? Like, we're genetically here to procreate, right? That's what our bodies think, right? I'm not saying that's what we're here for, but that's what our bodies think. They're like, okay, I got these hormones and like, where's the baby, right? I got to like keep the fat on because when it gets too low, then that's a problem. I can't procreate, right? This is something you can't control. It's out of your control to a degree. And that's why when women are trying to get really lean for shows and the whole world of bodybuilding, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of the general public doesn't see, right? There's anabolic steroids that enter the picture. There are supplements and pills that are suppressing female hormones so you can drop more of the body fat. There's fat burners that are not legal by any means, right? There's all these things that a lot of times your favorite Fitspos and fitness influencers aren't going to admit that they're doing or have done because it doesn't look good. And I'm going to tell you I've done them. Like I always tell you guys, I'm 100% for real with you, because I would be doing you a disservice if I wasn't telling you the cold hard truth, right? If you want to do that, to get to that level, not all the time, but oftentimes there is going to be a deep level of restriction, and there's going to be some kind of component of outside influence by way of maybe some hormone therapy, PEDs, physique enhancing drugs, or fat burners that are coming into play. And the last thing I'm going to say about nutrition is I oftentimes get people that'll come to me and they say like, I eat good or I eat clean. And oftentimes when they tell me that, it's like a red flag for me to know that they really don't. And so this was eye-opening for me when I first started doing it. And so what we do when we work with our clients, and what I always suggest if you are a coach out there working with your clients or you're looking for coaching, is that when you start working with a coach, it's kind of, to me, irresponsible for them to just hand you a diet without knowing how you currently eat, because oftentimes it's setting you up for failure. So what we do is I want to know what you eat. All right. I want you to not be good. I want you to log it. I want you to track it. Don't act like the principal's watching. Put it all in my Fitness Pal. So that way, when I look at it, I can see where we're at on the level of understanding that you are with nutrition, right? And there's no shame. It's really just, okay, this person thinks eating Quaker Oats maple oatmeal for breakfast made with milk and a glass of orange juice and maybe like some scrambled eggs fried in butter is eating clean, okay? And I can look at that and I can say, all right, Mrs. Jones, this week we're making 2 simple changes and it's just going to be to breakfast, because guess what? That's going to be easier for you to manage. It's going to be less overwhelming and it'll be easier for you to stick to. And it's less shocking, right? Because sometimes when you start to try to eat healthier, it's like your taste buds are like, what the fuck is actually going on here? Like, what's happening? And in the beginning, it's a lot of untraining our overly salted, overly sugared, overly processed palates and having to understand what real food actually tastes like. And it doesn't have to taste boring, FYI, okay? It doesn't. Some prefer it boring, but it doesn't have to be boring. So that is one way, is getting real with yourself and doing a diary for a week and just seeing exactly what your nutrition looks like and getting real with yourself. What's your protein intake? How much are you eating? How much are you consuming? Those are all very key when you're really trying to see the results of your training. And then the last thing I'm going to say about all of this is, are you being realistic with multiple things? Are you being realistic with the timeline? Are you being realistic with yourself and what you can actually accomplish in maybe a short timeline if you're doing some kind of short program and you've never done something like this before, right? So it's getting real and knowing that you can't do these things for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then be frustrated and just be like, oh, I'm doing everything and it's not working. Because like I've said on multiple podcasts, the day that you plant the seed is not the day that you bear the fruit. So to translate that, all the days you spend doing the things is what you need to be doing to be a healthy human anyways. So just keep doing them and the body will come as a result, right? Without the restrictive diets, just paying attention to your nutrition, getting your hormones in check, training like you mean it, and training with intensity, right? Those things, if you just rinse and repeat them and not rely solely on the scale, will give you that result. You just have to be patient and know that the time is going to pass anyways, and you might as well spend it doing things that are good for you, that are going to make you feel good, reduce stress, give you energy so you can actually live the life that you want to live. All right, you guys, this fall, we are working on this together. And I'm very excited. Like I told you, I'm getting back on my cardio game, a little bloated. This summer we've been having fun. Kids have been out of school. And I know a lot of moms are just like ready to just kind of get back on a routine. Some moms have been on a routine and maybe they're burnt out from the routine. I'm doing a 7-day healthy and hot challenge, 7-day healthy and hot challenge. And we start September 22nd. Now, this is definitely for you if you're like, all of this screams a big fat yes for me. I'm feeling this. You're speaking to me. You're talking my language, especially if you're over 40. And we're going to work with you within that 7 days to show you what a basic routine that you can stick to probably forever, okay, that I would recommend to somebody who wanted to lose body fat, get in shape, stay healthy, stay mobile, feel confident, build their legs, do all the things. And we're going to like simplify it on a whole nother level for you. Okay. And you're going to have time with me. We're going to spend time in a group coaching setting. You will have an opportunity to get on and do sort of what we call like a hot seat, right? So you could sit in front of me and I could sit with you and I could say, give me your top 3 biggest struggles right now, and we can work through that in real time and give you a solution to move forward to start making some changes, right? So it's going to be a nice group challenge. We're going to have a VIP option for those of you that maybe want to spend a little bit more time getting a little deeper with some of this stuff. It's going to be workouts figured out for you. Cardio is figured out for you. We're going to have some basic nutrition stuff because we don't need to do everything and overhaul everything in 1 week. And the time that I have with you live on Zoom is going to be really talking to you about your mindset around the entire process and how you can make this part of your lifestyle and not a temporary thing that you're doing every, January or every time you need to, lose some weight, right? This is just part of how you live your life so you can live your life longer and healthier and hotter. So check out the link in the description or check out the show notes wherever you're listening to this, and I hope you enjoyed today. Let me know what is the one thing that you need to pay attention to after hearing today's podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the comments below. If you're listening over on the podcast, come find me over on Instagram. Tell me what you're working on, and I'll hold you accountable. All right, we'll talk to you guys on the next one.